My name is James Jensen. I'm the Executive Director of the Osgoode Township Museum. I'm pleased today to be here with Michael Daley, local historian, author, and founding member of the Osgoode Township Museum. And we're going to have a conversation today about his recollections and memories of the 50 years of his involvement with the museum. So, Michael, to start, can you tell us when and where you were born?
Yes, I was born on the family farm, September the 26th, 1926. And at lot 14, concession 3 in Osgoode Township.
Right, and is that, does that house still exist?
No, the house was burnt on the 9th of this January last. And they eventually tore it down, and they also tore a beautiful barn down that was standing there also.
Right, and all of your possessions had been moved out of the house?
No, I had moved out of the house 3 years ago, and I moved over to this residence.
Okay. So did you grow up at that house?
Yes, I did. And me and my brother and 5 sisters.
Right.
We all grew up in that house.
And could you tell us a little bit about your parents?
Well, my mother was Mary Daley. She died in childbirth on April the 3rd, 1931. That was on a Good Friday, and she died at 3 o'clock. I was 5 years old. My father, Thomas Daley, died May the 30th, 1948. There was 7 of us in the family. I had 1 brother and 5 sisters.
Wow. And what were their names?
My oldest sister was Rita, Edna, Margaret, Pat, Teresa, Josephine, myself, Josephine Daley.
So you're the second youngest?
Yes, I was the second youngest.
Okay. So I'm a little curious about your family and its values or things that your parents thought that were important as they were raising you and your siblings.
Well, I didn't know my mother hardly at all. She died in childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
But our grandparents lived with us, Michael Daley and Catherine Kehoe. They were both up in their years, but they were in the house was big enough for us all. And then when my mother died, it changed the scene. We grew up without our mother. She died on the 3rd of April 1931. That was on Good Friday. And life continued. We just finally, I wasn't going to school yet, but I did eventually. And followed my 1 brother and 5 sisters to the school, and then my youngest sister, she came later.
Right.
She was already with us, but she came to school later. And I lived there for, I think I was 95 years on that farm.
That's amazing.
Yes, well, and this is where I am now. But no, my wife found me. She came from the mountains in Quebec. And no regrets. Her and I had 10 children. We still have 9 of them, or I still have 9 of them. She passed away some years ago. But no, I'm satisfied with my life.
Well, so are there any stories of your family with funny or memorable from when you were all together at the house?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. With 7 of us there, and there was always something to do. We were never out of a job. And my oldest sister, after my mother died, my oldest sister, I would always say that she raised the rest of us. And eventually, after our father died and my grandparents had passed on, within 11 months of we had 3 weeks in our house and 11 months.
Wow.
And my oldest sister, she was good at nursing people. She went over to the U.S. to help with one of my father's youngest sisters that had been growing old and needed help. So she was there for a number of years, and then she came back. My brother Pat, he moved to Toronto and was married. And my sister Margaret got married. My sister Edna married. My brother Pat married. And my sister Teresa and my sister Josephine all married. And then I was married myself for many years. And my wife and I, she's from La Belle Province. And she found me. And we were married for 57 years when she passed away.
It's amazing. So did most of your siblings stay in Osgoode Township or near Ottawa?
No, my oldest sister eventually moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to look after an aging aunt there. My brother Pat moved to Toronto, married and raised a family there. My sister Margaret and my sister Edna and Josephine all married around here.
Okay.
So I've lost track of the grandchildren anymore.
Well,
My nieces and nephews.
there must be a lot.
Well, at one time between the two of us, there was somewhere up around 100. Because my wife was one of 14.
Wow. That has changed a lot over the years for families.
You said that right.
So a few minutes ago you mentioned going to school. Could you tell us what schools you went to?
I went to school at Herbert's Corners, a one-room school. And we weren't allowed to start too early. I think I was almost between 5 and 6 years old when we started. And I was there, got my entrance class. I did take a grade 9, but I wasn't interested, so I went back and stayed on the farm. Then we had 3 wakes and funerals in our house in 11 months. So it ended up that I took over the farm, and I was there till I came here.
Right. So was there a continuation school available at that time?
Yeah, we could have went to Metcalf.
Okay.
Or I think there was one in Cars also, and one in Ireland.
I think that's right.
Yes.
And the high school, well, it's now the high school in Metcalf is still there.
Yes. Well, that's where I went to write my entrance. It was in the Metcalf.
Okay. And what?
They had to, when we got to our grade 8, to get that you had to go and write exams.
Right. And were you accepted?
I passed.
Excellent.
But that's as far as I went.
So then you said you went back and took over the farm.
Yes. Well, I had never left it.
Oh, okay. So I'd like to turn now to how you became interested in local history.
Well, thanks to my wife. In the fall of 1972, she informed me she wanted to take her parents to Ireland. So I objected strenuously, but I always lost. Anyway, that's what we did. In the middle of March 1973, we took our parents with us and we went to Ireland. And we traveled around Ireland for about 2 weeks. And we seen a lot of it and met a lot of people. And then Mr. and Mrs. Thompson came home, and my wife and I went to Scotland, Ireland, England and Scotland. And we were there for a week or so. And then we came home, and I was back to farming. And no, it was a great trip. And that's how I began interested in history. I shouldn't say that because when I was younger, we lived in a farmhouse, no electricity, and my grandparents were living with us. They were well up in their years, but in the winter time they would sit by the box stove in the dining room and reminisce. Mm-hmm. And the rest of us kids were out doing our homework around the kitchen table. When I was done mine, I would slip onto the table and go into the dining room where it was dark, and under the dining room table I would listen.
Yes.
And many years later, things they talked about came back to me. And then when my wife decided she was going to take her parents to Osgoode, to Ireland, that's when I really got interested. And no, we took them with us, and they were up and ready to go in the morning. They were both well over 80, and we just enjoyed having them.
Right. So were you going to look at family things while you were there, or was it a bit of sightseeing?
We did not have time. We just toured Ireland and visited a lot of places that we'd often heard tell of.
Right. So does your family originally come from Ireland?
Yes, they
it
did.
Does. Okay.
My grandfather's father, Thomas Daley, he came from Ireland with his father and mother, Michael Daley and Elizabeth McGuire. And they settled on the farm where I just came off of.
Okay.
And no, we enjoyed that trip. And then I came home and back into farming. And did that for, kids were growing up like they were bad weeds and scattered. And so I was left there alone. My wife passed away, their mother, and I continued to stay there. And then came over here almost 3 years ago.
So when you became interested in your family's history, how did you start to look into it?
That's a powerful question. I had already questioned my grandparents, but they were not inclined that way. Mm-hmm. And I went to the National Archives in Ottawa there, and there was a woman there, helped me a lot. She told me there was a greatest historian living in Osgoode Township by the name of Elizabeth Stewart. So I came home and I called Elizabeth, and she invited me to a meeting the next morning in the home of Mrs. Slipped my memory. So I attended that meeting, and that's what got me involved. And one thing just, I fit in like a glove. Mm-hmm. And Elizabeth knew she was interesting to talk to, and she knew more about Osgoode Township than I did then. And then I started putting history together on my family and presented that to them, and that came out like, well, I wrote a number of histories on different families because that was my interest.
Yeah. And we still have them at the museum.
I would hope you have.
So that when you called Elizabeth, that was your first...
That was my first involvement with the Historical Society.
And I guess, was she talking about establishing a museum?
Not at that particular time, no.
Okay.
These were all senior citizens, and they were all retired school teachers. Mm-hmm. And I did not want to make out that I knew something, which was very little anyway. So I let them do the things, but I was tagged. I was always at their meetings. Most of the time.
So that was in, I think, 1972?
72 I started.
Yep.
73 would have been the January of something, 73. That's when I've been in my first meeting, I think, with them. I went to the meeting.
Right. And so they had a couple meetings before that?
Yes. I knew about Elizabeth Stewart being a retired school teacher. Mm-hmm. And Margaret Robb, Ginny Dow. There was a few more there. They were all retired teachers.
Right.
So what did I didn't have a very much leg in. Well, I got my leg in there all right, and they kept me.
Yes. So it was, I guess it was a few months or a year before the opportunity to establish the museum came up?
Well, I couldn't say that I wouldn't say that I was involved with it, yes, because I was at the first day we opened the school. Mm-hmm. I was involved, but I let them do their thing because I was only a young gaffer, and I knew all those, they were all retired school teachers, and I followed along and attended their meetings.
Right. So I guess this was probably the first time you had been involved with a historical society
That's
or
right.
museum.
Yes.
Great. So you mentioned some of the names, Elizabeth and
Elizabeth.
Mrs. Robb and the Dows.
Yes, Elizabeth Stewart, Margaret Robb, Harry Anderson, and Jenny Dow.
So once the museum was started, do you remember anything about like the challenges and the maybe troubles that they had getting started?
I really can't say because things just seemed to fit into place.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all retired school teachers. And they used to call me Elizabeth's little boy because if Elizabeth wanted something, I would help her. No, it was, I enjoyed it all, but I was busy.
Yeah.
And trying to farm at the same time. And the kids were all growing up like they were moving on.
So you do end up though, did you become a board member eventually?
Oh yes, I was on the board, but
Yep.
but I did become chairperson sometime or another, or president, they called it, I think. No, eventually, yes. But I wanted, because those group of retired school teachers, they started it, and I didn't want to interfere. They were doing their thing,
Right.
and we give them credit for it.
And I think you also edited the newsletter for quite a while.
I did the newsletter for many years.
Yes.
Because Elizabeth was doing it. She did it for 10 years and she quit. Somebody else is going to have to do this. So there was Jenny Dow, I think, and someone, maybe Margaret Robb, no, I shouldn't say. But anyway, we started from there. And eventually they dropped out and I did it for many years.
Yes. And was there trouble finding other people to be involved with the museum back then?
We never had any problems. People were interested, and if they had something they wanted to donate to the museum, we had it. The museum building, the schoolhouse, it was getting pretty well filled. Anyway, we all were in favor of getting that barn up at the back there to put farm machinery in it. And Murray Little, I think, was the president at that when we got that through. But no, that was that was a big thing for us, get that. And then when we did get it there, we would have it open on Sunday afternoons. So we had lots of visitors
Yes.
coming to it.
So this will sound like a hard question. Do you remember the first Visitors' Day in 1973, the first day the museum invited the public in?
Yes, there was 50 people there that day.
Wow.
And we thought that was pretty good.
That's a pretty good number for the museum today.
Yes, it probably is. No, I jotted that down someplace and I still have it someplace.
That's still a good number for the museum even today.
Yes, I imagine it is. The scene has changed. People aren't looking for their roots the way that were back then.
It has definitely changed.
Yes.
People still do, but they have access to so many ways of finding it now.
That's right.
So you were actively involved with the museum for
Till I retired, and the year has slipped from my memory.
because we had our 50th birthday last year.
Yes,
So
I was there.
you were there. You were a star. So you've mentioned some of the things you did with the museum, the newsletter. Are there other things that you did that were part of making the museum operate?
Well, I let other people do that, but if they made a good motion for something that I would have supported, I supported them and seen that it got done. Helped to see that it got done. No, it was, there was some incidents that shouldn't be repeated. So I won't, you didn't hear me.
All right, as you said, we can protect the guilty and the innocent.
No, I enjoyed that all my life, and then putting the newsletter together. Of course, I couldn't type, I didn't have a computer. And I would write out what what I had for the newsletter after Elizabeth quit, and I would have help from other teachers too, to make it full. And no, that was, and then they got older, I guess, and I ended up with it mostly myself for many years.
Mm-hmm.
No, I enjoyed that because I enjoyed going back, looking for history on the families around here.
Well, we still refer to the newsletters on a regular basis, looking for information. So,
Great.
And roughly, how many publications or books do you think you produced?
Oh, I just worked on families.
Okay.
And they were in the Pioneer Family booklets.
Okay.
There's I think at one time I helped with 20 families.
Right. Okay.
Now my name may not be at the end of that story, but some of them I let them think they did it all themselves.
Well, that's how these things go. It's the work of many hands.
That's right.
So what do you think the most important thing about the museum's existence? Why do you think it's so important?
Because it's a glimpse into the past. And the pioneer stories that we put out, there should have been around 100, I think. And to me, they were always interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I know. I helped a lot of families do their own thing.
So Pioneer Days was quite the important part of the museum. Do you have memories of that?
There was that first one that was a success in my view. There was lots of people participating in old farm equipment and everything else, and there was a good crowd. Now, who did we have? The minister of Mike Dewan was our guest speaker that day.
Okay.
Agricultural minister, and that everything went pretty smooth, fortunately.
Mm-hmm. And so there was like a big parade.
Yes, there was a big parade. It started east of the village and then came up and they all settled around them.
Right. And did people come from all over the township, or was it just Vernon?
Oh, no. It was all over the township. I just couldn't tell you, but there was a good crowd.
Nope, that's...
And Mike Dewan was the minister from here, this area. He was our guest speaker.
Oh, I didn't realize he was from here.
Yes, pretty sure that's the way it was,
Okay.
yes.
And after the parade, what else happened at the museum?
Well, they had a lot of walking around, and we had a big supper.
Right.
I remember correctly. And no, it was a success that day. We were all happy with it.
Right. And so was the supper outside, or did you go to the community center?
No, we had, where did we have the supper? In the building, in the school.
Really? Okay.
Pretty sure that's where it was.
Wow, must have been crowded.
Well, it's spread out. Yes, it was crowded, all right. I hardly remember it, but I do think...
I'm sorry, I'm asking from long ago.
That, yeah, 50 years ago, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Or close to it.
And I guess it continued on for many years.
Yes, we did for a few years, for sure, as long as we could get enough help to do that. No, I enjoyed all those years. And then when Elizabeth quit writing the newsletter, there was, she had it for 10 years. Maybe I mentioned that.
Yes, you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
So it does sound like she was a bit of a force of nature.
No comment.
We'll edit that one out.
Well, yes.
I got along good with it. They used to call me, there's Elizabeth's boy. Because when she wanted something done, it got done.
Mm-hmm. And her farm was on Daley Road?
Yes, east of Highway 31. East of Highway 31? Or west?
West.
Okay, west of Highway 31. In my time, I think we had a pretty good relationship with the Township Council.
Mm-hmm.
It's because there again, when we had more management than me, I stayed back. History was my thing.
Right.
And we always had different what we call them, managers, I guess, and a good number of people on the board. So I let them do it, and I never had any reason to have them change anything. There was one time we had a writer, a local man, giving us a lot of history on his life, especially in farming in bushland, and it was easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I was getting printed things that not only I was involved, but other people enjoyed it too.
Right. So a little while ago you mentioned people dropping off objects. So at one time the museum, when it started, had no collection. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how objects came into the collection and how you personally added to the collection.
That was amazing, I guess you would have to say, because people that were interested in the history of the township, and if they had some agriculture machine or something that or anyway, history on families too,
Mm-hmm.
they would donate them, and we'd print the family histories, and then eventually we had all this stuff that we needed to put someplace to put this farm implements, and Lauren Craig, he was interested in getting a shed built, and Lauren and another gentleman too, quite a number of them. Anyway, it happened, and that we got that machine shed built, and we had a place to put stuff. And I know it looks different now because we used to have it packed, but some people, myself included, took some of their articles back home. I had a walking plough that came from Ireland, and it was on display in the shed there. And my son Sean, he thought he'd like to get it back, so it's back in the family again.
Is it?
There was articles, because we were getting crowded for room too in that shed.
Yep.
At one time. And so some people did take their own articles back, just more or less to change the scene, makes more interesting articles being brought in. No, to me, putting up that shed, that was a great investment, because it's stuff there that people didn't even know what it was.
Right. So the first time you and I met, you were pulling into the museum in your car and you were dropping off some objects. This was 2.5 years ago.
That's quite possible. I got a good memory, but it gets short sometimes.
Yes. So would people bring you objects, or would you just be talking to people and they would say, "Come over and have a look at this"?
Some people would mention that they had something, and no, we didn't have to go looking for them.
No? Okay.
They were always donated.
And do you have a favorite object that you brought to the museum?
Well, I did have, and I took it back home.
Fair enough. How about a second?
It's a walking plough that came from Ireland.
Or do you have a second favorite?
No, I've left so much stuff there, I don't know what's there anymore.
Okay. It's funny because there are lots of objects with your family name on them. So.
Oh, okay.
Well, from you having donated them to the museum.
Got it.
You know, and there are cute things that happen. Even kids will go into the barn and they'll see the little tags, and it says the name of where it came from, and they'll find their family name.
Okay.
And even if it's a great grandparent that they don't know, they know it's from their family.
Oh, great.
So we get these little kids, 8, 10, 12, who are very excited to see objects that you or other community members have left at the museum.
That's the general idea of putting it there.
Yes, but it's amazing to see, because you sort of think, oh, kids, they're just, they're not paying attention, but
they are.
They are.